Hi guys, it's Mrs. Henry again, and today we're going to talk about operations of functions and we're going to talk about composition of functions. So let's get started. So today we're going to start with f of x equals our three defined functions, and h of x So we're going to start with one of each of these, and then we're going to move on to something else. First, we're going to talk about f plus g of x. And when we do this, we're just going to add these two functions. So x squared minus 8x plus 4 plus 4x minus 3. So when I combine like terms, I get x squared minus 4x plus 1. And that's my answer. The next one we're going to do, instead of plus g, I'm going to call this one minus h. And when I subtract h, this one's going to look a little different. The easiest way to handle subtraction is to change the sign or distribute the negative sign. So I get x squared minus 8x plus 4 minus x minus 2. So I get x squared minus 9x plus 2. Now we're going to multiply. So I have h times g of x gives me x plus 2 times 4x minus 3. So I'm going to distribute. So I get 4x squared minus 3x plus 8x minus 6, and combine like terms. So I get 4x squared plus 5x minus 6. Now, the easiest one, because when we divide, I have f over h of x. I get x squared minus 8x plus 4 equals x plus 2. And we're going to leave that just there. And that's how we add, subtract, multiply, and divide. I'm going to change a couple of these functions and we're going to evaluate, and then we'll do composition of functions. And I have 2x squared. And these are just defining different functions. Minus x, minus 12, and I get x plus 7. The first thing we're going to do is to find f plus g, and instead of x, gonna find of negative 2? So what I'm going to do first is find f of negative 2. So I get negative 2 squared is 4 times 2 is 8. Minus negative 2 is plus 2 minus 12. And here I get negative 2. And then when I find g of negative 2, I have negative 2 plus 7, which is just 5. Remember up here we're adding, so it's negative 2 plus 5 is 3, and that's my final answer. Now I'm going to try one out with a fraction, because sometimes fractions trip some kids up, but I think fractions today are going to be okay. So I'm going to start with I'm going to find f of 5. I get 2 times 5 squared minus 5 minus 12. And I get 25 times 2 is 50. Minus 5 is 45. Minus 12 is 33. And g of 5 is 5 plus 7, which is 12. And remember, we are dividing. So I have 33 over 12. And 33 over 12 can be reduced to 11 over 4. And that's my final answer. So the only thing you had to do here is reduce fractions. So now today we're going to talk about what happens when I put a function inside of another function. I'm going to switch up some functions. So I have x cubed plus 8. And I have x minus 1. So here if I'm having h of g of x, and I have h of x again, 5x minus 3. Here, what's happening is I'm taking a value g of x and replacing it into h where x is. I know that sounds super confusing. So instead of keeping it like this, I'm going to say h of x minus 1. Because x minus 1 is indeed what g of x is. So I'm going to go to h, and wherever I see x, I'm going to put x minus 1. So I'm going to say 5 times x minus 1 minus 3. So I'm going to distribute. So I get 5x minus 5 minus 3, or 5x minus 8. And that's my function. Let's do a couple more. And then, well, let's do one more, and then we'll do one more with a number. And then we'll be good to go for today. So now I have g of f of x, which becomes g of f of x. I know that looks weird again, so we're going to say g of x cubed plus 8. Well, here we're going to take x cubed plus 8 and subtract 1. And I get x cubed plus 7. And now what we're going to do is we are going to find the composition of functions inside other functions. So let's look at h of f of x. Okay, so this is h of f of x, or h of x cubed plus 8. So here, the way this is different than the others is it wants us to find out what happens at 6. This should be a little circle, not a big O. A little O. Now, what happens is I'm going to do 5 times x cubed plus 8 minus 3. So I get 5x cubed plus 40 minus 3, or 5x cubed plus 37. And we're going to put that in and try to find out what happens at 6. So 5 times 6 cubed plus 37. 6 cubed is 216. So 5 times 216 plus 37. So this is 1080 plus 37. And that gives me 1117. That looks great. So there we've done operations of functions and compositions of functions all in today. Have a good day, guys. See you later.